I think we're live.
Awesome.
Can you hear the keyboard, Eric?
So I can hear it, but that's might not be. Hmm. I don't know if it's like if you can hear it through the actual stream portion, and if it's just
Oh, that's true. Yeah, so
you know.
that might be different. Well, whatever.
Well, I guess if people end up showing up in this, we can ask. I mean, you can probably, if you're clicking the keyboard and stuff, if you just look at the I don't know what you call it,
Yeah, I've all
the little
yeah.
mixer thing in Streamlabs, you could probably, but I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me that it might be hard.
Well, I'll deal with it. I'll play around with it more later.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
I don't know. I'm trying to largely get this Imperial Guard model finished for
Mm-hmm.
um tomorrow for the 28th.
Oh shit! Yeah, I guess it is tomorrow. I forgot that somehow. Somehow I forgot that. Well,
I'm working on painting her hair.
it's like kind of a black or something.
It's like a dark brown.
Okay. The base looks really nice.
Yeah, I tried to make it all
The little plants,
jungle-like.
what are they made out of? Like the ferns and stuff?
They're paper.
Okay.
But I coated them with like a small amount of watered down glue.
Okay. Okay.
And then painted them a bunch of
Yeah,
colors.
yeah,
It really likes to focus on my hand.
yeah. It's just on auto now, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel working out that and finding like a setting or something that makes sense will be,
Important.
yeah, but it'll probably just take some time. Just because I'm not very knowledgeable about it, first of all, and every new piece of technology and stuff has some learning curve you have to kind of deal with. I feel
Yeah.
I've recently been watching a bunch of videos on different sort of audio related stuff
Okay,
and
yeah.
make a lot of cool mixers and stuff that designed both for podcasts. A lot of the stuff is designed specifically for streaming, in which they will have different sorts of solutions in which that they can take like an XLR microphone, but then um, have sort of different mixers or channels for like your different audio streams from like a computer. Like maybe if you have like a Discord chat, if you have music from like Spotify or something, all of which they'll be on different channels that you can, with like a little slider or fader, you can adjust the volume real time or mute stuff, and
Yeah.
a way that you can simplify the sort of what you're doing, which isn't really uh,
Something we would need.
that applicable for the stuff we're doing. I guess, admittedly, if we did more uh, painting streams and stuff, it might be something worthwhile to have music in the background at like a low volume and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you were like streaming games and stuff from like a console, you have the difficulty that you need to get the game's audio, your audio, like maybe the computer's audio, all those different things that you want to be able to have some control over, which, is
You don't have to deal with all that.
no. I suppose one thing that is potentially could be beneficial about a thing like that is that it allows you to do some processing on your own audio, however. Like you could, through that, do like noise gates, and more than that though, compression on on your own audio and such. And it does it kind of just, so I think stuff like that is like a good aspect of it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really make sense. And honestly, if we were to like look into something like that, it would probably be better to get something that was a little bit more focused on podcast related things, that even if it's not a necessity, it would be helpful for that. Hey Vox.
Oh, hey, Vox.
Just talking about random stuff as Adam's trying to finish painting this Sister of Battle.
Or Imperial Guard.
Oh my god. See, I have Sister of Battle on the mind because I've gotten back into painting one of them, having finished that one Gundam model that had a recent post about. How do you like the painting handle, Adam?
It's pretty nice. The biggest downside of it is you need to have your model on the base to use it.
Yeah, that's what I've found as well. Like the few, I mean, admittedly, I haven't painted that many models, but when I have been, the few that I've had that were just on a base, it was pretty great and convenient. But oftentimes, or most of the models that I've painted, they're pinned and I don't actually have them on the base, so I can paint them separately. Then it's like easier that you can kind of swing, or at least for mine, swing the model off the cork a little bit to like get up underneath the robes and things like that. That if it was glued to the base, it wouldn't really
Yeah, you wouldn't be
have
able to do it
that.
at all. I don't know. I think I've largely finished her hair.
How did you go about doing that?
I don't know. Let's wonder if I can actually. It's very hard to. It doesn't. The camera doesn't like to focus on the top of her head.
I guess it probably focuses like lower.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to see here. But like the top of it, I did a bunch of stippling to kind of get a different
Make it look sort of like textured.
texture, and then on the sides, I painted some like individual like strands or groups of hair to make it more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because presumably the actual model itself probably didn't have a huge amount of texture to it.
No, it had nothing. Yeah, you can't really tell. Yeah, well. So in terms of that, I think the main thing that I still need to do is he has these like little armbands that I need to paint.
The one little so most of the little ferns are kind of on the ground and smashed down. One behind her kind of curled foot is like sticking up more. Is that also a paper one as well?
That's paper too. They're all paper.
Okay.
All the ferns.
Okay. Fox asked if you put like stubble on kind of the side of her head, like which I guess probably where it was shaved and stuff.
I did a little, but I probably should do more of that. Which is a good suggestion. Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, was this the first what sharding squid? Nice to have you here. Mentioned that the ferns turned out great. Is this actually the first time you've used the little paper kind of ferns, Adam?
Yes. Let's see if do I have them? Or did I put them away? I don't know where I put them. They're these little like ammo of Mig ferns that I bought like years ago, thinking that I would use them, and then never used them. Sort of because I wasn't really sure how I would attach them. Man, what did I do with them? I think I already put them away.
You have to like cut them out of like, are they like on like, I'm gonna call it like a little sprue or runner, but it's obviously paper, but
I'm gonna get them out.
Okay. But yeah, I feel lots of different ammo of MIG, probably AK Interactive, lots of different stuff have started to make all sorts of different basing materials and whatnot.
They're these like little, there we go, tropical ferns they're called. And with an X-Acto blade, you need to trim them out, and there are a few little there are a few edges and stuff that aren't cut that you yourself have to cut to get them to come out, but it's very thin. And then you can
because I was kind of wondering if perhaps a company sells like photo etch like this.
I think companies do, and that might be a little easier to keep them in the desired shape.
Yeah.
But these paper ones, like after I largely glued them on, I painted them with some like watered down, I think, PVA glue. And once that dried, they were a little more stable.
Then you primed it and painted it and such. Did you do anything to get like below the fern or something? Like for painting it, or is that just kind of a darker color based on how it was primed and whatnot?
It's a darker color, but like I put some like enamels and browns and stuff in there. So like did a fair amount of work to like at least maintain some of the. So it is like actually the proper color underneath there, but there it's like there are
Mhm.
heavier shadows and stuff. So
Yeah, you're not really on camera, Adam.
okay. Oh, I'm not, or the model's not.
The model it is now.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's a little off still, but I mean, I guess it the video is a little off from what I'm hearing. So, Vox actually asked if you were done with the base, and that maybe some like plant tufts or flock might add some extra jungle dimension.
Yeah, so I mean I've added a little of that, but like maybe adding a little more might not actually be bad.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll consider doing that because I guess I've never actually been to a jungle, but there are probably like lots and lots of plants
I think in rainforest there really isn't that much plant cover. The
because there's
bottom,
so
because like
much like the
there's like no light.
canopy. Yeah,
There's
okay.
like no light down there, and the soil is really thin and not very nutritious because there's so much rain that erodes it away.
Hmm, that's interesting. I guess that makes sense.
There's a lot of fungi and whatnot, though.
Maybe I should have researched this before
Well.
making the base.
Yeah, Vox just said they're pretty muddy and don't have any grass. So, yeah, for that kind of reason.
Yeah, well, for the
That's
next model.
any plans to convert a grim dark Gundam now? Yeah, so I don't know. I feel I would kind of like to
Uh, I have one
look.
here that I would like to do something with, but I feel the last one that I built was probably 20 years ago, or at
Yeah, well, you
least
could probably.
15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I feel I wouldn't. I wouldn't mind like for the next thing I try to build, which I don't know what that would be in terms of like a Gundam or whatever, but it would probably be like a Zaku or something like that because I feel the Zakus are cool because they're very sort of utilitarian and their colors and all that stuff. It really reminds me of like a Russian T-34 or something. This very like workhorse sort of tank, and because of it, I wouldn't mind trying to get something like that than trying to paint it in very much sort of the scale model mentality with a lot of dirt and whatnot. So that would be a little bit more grimdark, perhaps. But I feel it would still be squarely to be like a Gundam. But I still feel it would be, after getting a better sense of some of that stuff, it could be cool to actually try to kit bash and use some of the kits to actually make some 40K sort of stuff. And there's that. Greg had been talking about it this evening, but there's this cool, or he had sent some pictures to me this evening about this cool master class little ball working spacecraft thing. I don't even know what to describe it as. See if I can find what they call it. That was in some of like the original Gundam series as like a little almost probe or something that can go out and repair stuff. I feel some of those like less mecha sort of suits could probably pretty easily convert into something that would be good for like working in like space stations or whatnot.
Yeah, and I imagine Australia probably does have some all sorts of cool rainforests and stuff. And I guess the rainforests they probably differ a lot based on where they are too. Hmm. Okay, so I added a bunch of stuff to make it look like her head, the hair on her back of her head was like shaved and is slightly starting to like grow back.
Seems nice. Let me.
Actually, were you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy way to show pictures, but the thing I was talking about, this RB79
I just brought a
ball.
picture of it.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I feel like
But,
even just like the arms and stuff on a lot of these would like fit really well on so many different things. And then like I think all of them like have huge range of motion and stuff, so like you could actually pose
but
them and do all sorts of stuff.
but I feel this little thing, I mean, I don't really know the size and obviously the scale of it, you can see there are those tiny little people there. But
Hmm.
depending on the scale, like you could easily imagine that as like kind of a small single person craft that I feel you could replace that basilisk like heavy cannon on the top with like a heavy bolter and do some other things and make kind of a neat little lifter sort of thing for
Hmm.
docked in like a spaceport or in some hangar made with some zone mortalis stuff. And I think stuff like that could be fun.
Okay. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
what?
Have you assembled a bunch of Gundam stuff? Like it's been for me, as Adam sort of suggested, it has really been like 20 years since we did anything with them. And I have long since forgotten like the all the different grades and such, but
Well, the one you assembled, Eric, recently, the Goof.
it
What
was an HG, so it's like the
was it? Like 1/100th?
1/44th scale. Yeah, I
Okay.
think as Sharding Squid here suggested, I think the master grade ones is sort of the step up, which is they're a little larger at the 1/100th scale. And yeah, they have better articulation. I think it has a lot to do with it. They have like a complete like skeleton underneath, and I think that's cool. And so I feel like the next thing I would like to assemble would be something like that. I mean, I don't know if I really need to jump into assembling like a perfect grade thing, at least not at the moment. Admittedly, a friend of mine in graduate school, Halbo Adam, he has a
Hmm.
perfect grade Gundam that he got a little while back and hasn't done anything with, and is every now and again suggested I should try to help him assemble it. So maybe I'll try to do that one of these days.
Any idea what Gundam it is?
It's like a Universal Century Gundam.
Okay, that's cool. Not that that means that much to me anymore, but
It might even be like the classic Gundam, which I don't even remember what that's called. Like
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's just the classic one. Well, I should just let's see if I can look around and
Okay, he says sorry. You meant that the 150 fits better. Okay.
so yeah, I don't know. It might be the RX-78, like the super classic Gundam. Either that, or it could be uh, one of the Gundam Seed Gundams, but one that looks very reminiscent of the original RX-78 thing.
Okay, yeah. But you see, that's interesting. Like, I imagine, like if you look at like the newer kits that are being released now compared to like some of the older ones, like I imagine like they're very different in terms of very different in terms of like the quality and stuff. Like the one I would really like from 08th MS Team near the end, there's like I guess a goof custom that has like a Gatling gun. And there's a really cool scene with that. Like I would like to build a model of that. And I think they have a high grade version of it, but it's pretty old, so I imagine probably would need a lot of work, which is fine.
I just posted another thing. It's just an Amazon link, but there's like a perfect grade Zaku, and one of the pictures shows like the underlying frame, and that itself is pretty cool. Actually, and if people, can you let us know, can you hear how much of the keyboards and stuff can you hear when we're typing?
Damn, they have so much internal detail.
Yeah, I feel it's interesting how much detail and stuff is put into the kits, and just how many kits Bandai creates. I mean, I guess the scale of them and like the size of them relative to, Games Workshop's models are pretty different. So supposedly they don't hear any of the keyboard stuff. Well, that's good, because we were kind of experimenting a little bit in Streamlabs, putting up some noise gates and whatnot to try to like not pick up anything above a particular threshold, such that people wouldn't hear all the mouse clicks and keyboards and stuff, just in an attempt to be a little more professional. But we haven't really been able to test it to be sure. And I think the noise gate is through Streamlabs, so the audio coming in through that. But since I'm listening to just the audio from Hangouts to do this chat, I can hear the key clicks and stuff from that. But I think when it goes through Streamlabs to be put up, you don't. But I am no audio engineer, so who knows? But if it does work, that'll be nice, because I think the way we tend to record our like episodes of the podcast and things like that, if there's a lot of keyboard clicking and stuff, it's very hard for me to really remove any of that, because it's just a single audio track. Yeah. But if that stuff in Streamlabs works, that will be nice. So the real question is, do you hope to paint any more models like this one? Like, do you like the scheme, and is it something you'd like to do more of, or?
I've enjoyed it all actually quite a lot. And I think it would be fun to paint more like this, but I have too much other stuff that I need to do. Like, I stopped painting the Eldar model for this, so like it would be a crime if I like didn't actually finish that. So
yeah. Well, for me, like, I kind of got back on after assembling that Gundam and spending that time assembling that Forge World lighter. I
Mm-hmm.
shifted back again to painting these Sisters of Battle. So I have to keep pushing through it. It's so easy to push it off, though.
Building a team for Planet 28 would be cool, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I kind of meant to try to give that a like playtest that a little bit. I was thinking about even just with some models, just kind of play it solo and just kind of try out the rules and whatnot. But
yeah.
I haven't done that yet because despite having potentially more time for stuff like that due to the pandemic, it doesn't really equate to that.
Well, see, I already have like a little, almost like a kill team of Imperial Guard like this, but the few that I have painted, they're all in kind of like urban camouflage and stuff, so doesn't really fit with this. But I do like the jungle scheme.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I read over the rules for Planet 28. It seems pretty interesting. Um, one thing that I found that's not really a fault of it or anything, but it would be kind of nice if the basic rules had some basic profiles of like kind of standard Imperial Guard like soldier and some various things just to have more of a basis of stuff to work on. I mean, I know they tell you like what a standard human kind of is and things like that. And ultimately, one of the main strengths of the system is that you can kind of make whatever you like. But just to simplify things, like and get a sense of what his intent was for
Hmm.
power level and whatnot, I think could be helpful, and it would make it easier to kind of play test some things and modify and whatnot. But I think that there's like a Facebook group for it, and I think some people have kind of done some things like that and suggested things and came up with their own rules and whatnot. I guess towards that end, also, I think Anna from Gardens of Akate, she actually played some games using it as well. I think kind of in her Sunhold sort of setting that she's been working with. I don't think her intent is to use that for the Sunhold event itself, but maybe just to give it a try and use for some of her other kind of events and things leading up to it. So
Because I guess for
that's
that,
fun.
she already designed her own rule set, right?
Yeah. And maybe it's like called Fabula. I don't quite recall. I have to
Yeah.
look back into that. Yeah, that's it. That's it. But you actually got a physical copy of 28, right? Like
Yeah.
one of the little pieces of artwork from the game, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of neat. So I really like Nick Evans' art style. Should really see if you can pull back the camera, or maybe it's kind of too much of a pain with the paintbrush. And yeah, so that works better. What's like the printing like and such?
It's good. It's a really small book.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a nice layout and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as I said, his art style is cool. Well, he actually just released a second book
Yeah, that's
that
true.
I don't even know what it is. Maybe it's some like campaign setting stuff. I haven't actually
I thought
looked
it was for like
into it.
single player stuff. Or maybe I'm
Oh,
wrong.
that very well could be it. Maybe I can look for it. Actually, I'll be right back, everybody.
Yeah. Wow, painting black's kind of a nightmare. Feel every time I paint it, I try and do it a little different, and in hopes that I stumble upon something that I really like. Don't think I've found it yet. But there's still time. I feel honestly I don't really paint that many models to really know. But more recently I've been using Scale 75. They have kind of like a black and white paint set, which I got just to kind of get more of a sense, get a range of other colors and stuff that could be used to make like whites and blacks, and I think that has been kind of helpful to give me like a new direction to try different things. Yeah, no, it's tough. It's hard. Because like if you highlight it too much, sometimes it kind of comes off not looking black at all. But in on the same token, like you can often get away with some pretty heavy highlights and stuff, and it could still come off as black depending on depending on what other colors and stuff are next to it. And for this model, I've tried to do a bunch of work to try and get different textures and stuff, like on the different materials for like her webbing, combat webbing and stuff, and like some of the leather for her little machete she's carrying, and like her boots. So that's been kind of a fun process to work on. And then I guess on top of that, I've also tried to do a little bit more with the lighting and shadows. So like some of the shadows on the model itself are actually painted in more so than I've done in the past. Hey, Eric.
Hey, I'm back. I'm back.
Talking about painting black. I know, Eric, you love it.
Yeah, God, I'm terrible at it.
You love it.
Yeah, I am not great. Not great at it at all. I guess I don't spend enough time on any painting I do.
You see, that was one of the things I was saying. Like I feel like each time I paint a model, I need to paint like a lot of black or even just some black, I try and do something slightly different to try and see if I land on something that I really like. One thing that I found can work pretty well is if you just start out with your straight black, and then instead of like using like grays and stuff to highlight them, if you get like a almost like a bone color, like GW's bone color, and start mixing that slowly into the black, you can kind of get some like warm gray tones that work pretty well with highlighting, and they don't often come across as really striking and like different from some of the darker tones, so they almost naturally blend together pretty well. But I think Eric's computer might have frozen. Always something. Yep. He's gone. I don't know, another thing with like other people in here, like when you're painting, how much of an issue do you have with like dust and stuff like that? I feel like, well, I've been in lots of different apartments and places, like it's always to me like a pretty big issue. Like I've now started to, like when I'm not painting, I store all my models that I'm working on under like a glass dome or something, or like a plastic cup, to try and prevent dust and stuff from collecting on the models, because I feel for a lot of the stuff, if you just get a little bit on the models, like sometimes if you're not careful, like you can paint over it, and then it's like it's very difficult to get it out or off unless you like get an X-Acto blade and like physically cut it off. Hair. I was talking about dust and how it's like
it's a
constant struggle. Yeah.
It's horrible. I feel when I was painting those Necromunda floor tiles, like dust would just get on stuff all the time. I mean, because they were so large, and it was hard to get around it. I mean, admittedly, they were so large, and you kind of didn't see it unless you're like looking directly at it and scrutinizing them for it, but it's still kind of hard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, like oftentimes, every time I take a picture of a model that I'm working on, like I often look at the picture itself and kind of study it for a little, and that's when like you see all these imperfections and details and stuff that were not quite as obvious without it.
Yeah, no, that is very true. I certainly do that as well. To God, like you just tried to take some nice photos to put on Instagram or whatever, and there's this big thing of dust like sticking out of a shoulder pad or something. It's like, I have to retake these.
Yeah. The struggle's real.
Because I had sort of was trying to say, like, yeah, I'm not very good with black. I feel like basically just a flat coat. I mean, I've been using this like black Templar, like contrast.
Okay.
And for the most recent one, I think I primed them, or I actually used Vallejo primer, like a light gray primer, but then did like a zenithal coat of the Wraithbone stuff that Games Workshop has.
Mm-hmm.
And then before I had been just putting Black Templar over top of basically that Wraithbone, but even if it's not diluted, like a lot of the white kind of Wraithbone white shows up through it, such that you kind of have to do a few coats to get it to look black. But for this one, I actually painted most of the cloak like a slightly darker gray.
Okay.
And then the translucent component of Black Templar worked a little bit better, such that it was already a little darker. And I think that was better. But I'm still going to do like some edge highlighting and whatnot. But I guess it would be better if I actually tried to do some glazing rather than just doing the edge highlighting that I'm not very adept at. But
Yeah, I feel if you're doing serious edge highlighting with black, unless if you want it to look good, you often have to be super precise with it, or else could come across looking like really cartoonish and blocky.
Which actually I've sort of found the Black Templar, since it's pretty. I mean, it's translucent, but then somewhat or more opaque than a large amount of the contrast paints. It actually works kind of well for neatening up, like edge highlighting with like gray on black and stuff, because it largely covers it, but not completely,
Okay.
such that if you were just trying to trim it down and make it a little finer, it works okay at.
For this guard model that I'm working on, like I painted like the metallics and stuff of her rifle barrel, a silver paint, and then like I added some of the contrast, that Black Templar contrast paint to it, to kind of, or what I was hoping to do was give it kind of a worn bluing look that you see on more like modern firearms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I painted like a thin strip of silver along the barrel to kind of imitate like where light and stuff would be hitting it.
That's cool.
And so like I don't know, I think it turned out reasonably well. Like I feel in many regards you almost can't even tell that I just painted that silver line there, but like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that was sort of part of the goal, to try and make it look sort of natural and believable.
Yeah, yeah. This is kind of going back on stuff. You were correct that the Planet 28 thing, Death on the Periphery, are solo rules.
Okay. Yeah,
Guess
that had sort of been what I had thought, but
I guess I should probably get it. I offered the Nick and if like wanted help in the editing process, but never heard from him about it.
yeah.
So I did a bunch of editing on the first, like the original rules and stuff.
I feel with many things, whenever you write something, you can never have enough people like look at it and read it to, because like my lord,
Yeah,
even
no,
if
it helps a lot to have like a different set of eyes to look at something, because after a while it just really it can get difficult.
yeah, I mean even if you're careful, like it's super easy to miss stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I painted most of the stuff that I think I wanted to on the model.
Mm-hmm. I guess if people are still listening, I'm going to be doing some typing here. So if people hear it, let me know. Trying to get a copy of these solo rules to look through it, because I guess solo rules, it's kind of good for the current state of things.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think the model's pretty much done.
That's awesome.
I feel I will probably. Okay, Vox said she could hear it. Both of them, both Starling Squid and Vox, said they could hear it slightly for a second or so. So
Okay.
So
yeah, because when I was off stream for a little bit, Adam, I listened to the very beginning of the YouTube video and the stream. You can hear it.
Okay.
So we'll have to keep working with it. We'll have to keep working with it, but
yeah.
I mean, I guess most of the time we're not typing away madly, but I guess for our chatting and stuff, if it goes for a while, eventually our minds can wander. So
Yeah.
congratulations for finishing that, Adam. It's a major step. I mean, you painted it in the model in like a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, off and on, something like that. So yeah, for the models that I'm typically painting, that's pretty fast. Need to go and repaint the edge of the base.
You just like using Vallejo Black.
Yeah. That's the black I tend to use.
That's I recently got another bottle of it. I think I talked about it before, but I had last time that I ran out of black paint, that Vallejo Air Black. When I went to order some on Amazon, all they had was NATO Black.
Yeah, which is very different.
A very gray sort of black.
Yes.
That I don't think is that great for that sort of thing. I think it's good. I think you're painting scale tanks and whatnot. I think it's pretty nice. I know a lot of people who do scale modeling such, rather than even using traditional primer, they'll just spray it with Tamiya's acrylic NATO Black, just because it kind of can work as a primer, a thin primer, and act almost like a shadow coat.
Okay, yeah.
So
Let me put her on this like little.
But for the rims and such, I think.
Scale 75. They're standard black. Their matte black is really matte. So if you want like a good like matte black, it's much more matte than what you get with like the Vallejo one and some of the and the GW black. What is it?
Abaddon black?
Abaddon black, yeah, or Abaddon black.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, thanks, Vox. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with her. Like, I'm pleased with how the whole thing went. I'm happy I played around with the jungle bass a little more and finally tried to use some of the little ferns and stuff that I got. And I feel like if I was making a bunch of basses, like the little paper ones work pretty well, but I'd like to try and find some like ones that are made of like brass etching, because I feel some of those would be easier to like maintain like a shape. And like here, like she's since her base is so small, she's physically like standing on them, so it doesn't matter as much. So she's like actually trampling them. But tomorrow, or I guess where we are here, it's almost the 28th, so we'll probably put some nice pictures, or hopefully nice pictures of the model up on Instagram for 28th. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I guess we still have one more post we have to write for the month, so we'll probably write something about that, right?
I think so. And I guess tomorrow we'll have our standard stream session. I think we tried this last time, but last time towards the end of the stream, we used the camera to kind of unbox like one of the many kits that we have and kind of talk about the different components and stuff. So I think maybe we'll do that again, because it was sort of, I mean, last time we just kind of lambasted the Necromunda Orlocks. So I don't know, maybe we'll look at something else. And
always easy to
but and then
to have a negative word
maybe
about
we
them.
also will try and do more of like some conversion streams and stuff. Some conversion streams, or maybe we even take like some of the models and stuff we're showing, like maybe some of the Orlock models, and try and see if we can convert something out of one of the models that we're actually satisfied with. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Fox mentions that it'd be cool to see a post about our photography process, and I feel that is actually a good idea. Admittedly, my process is not a careful one.
Yeah, I feel I'm pretty horrible at taking photos. So actually, now that the model here is largely finished, I got my plastic cup, put it over the model. Don't want it collecting dust.
Feel it's a good idea, but then also something that I'd be worried about knocking it over or something.
You just have to make sure where you place it. There's like no fear of that happening. But so I guess for me, I think, Eric, your setup, like your computer and whatnot, is on like the same table or whatnot as where like your hobby stuff is. So like mine's on a separate table, so it's Eric, so you just have to get one of those IKEA glass domes.
Yeah,
that's the Eldar model that I've been painting.
I was hesitant.
One of them.
I kind of wanted to find like a nicer like bell jar or something.
Yeah, I had some thoughts of doing things like that, but um you'd have to sort of find the right one. And so, like, last time I was at IKEA, it's like, well, they have glass domes here. I'm just gonna get one and see how it
Yeah,
works, and it's fine.
yeah. Well, actually, I mean, we could talk a little bit about how we do photography. Like, do you use any sort of light boxes or anything, Adam, or do you just use a piece of foam?
I used to use like a little fold-up light box, but like the one I had was kind of meh. It wasn't that great, and the lights, it had lights in it itself, which I didn't love. So now I just have, yeah, these pieces of like different color foam, and then I like fold that up, set the model on it, and then take pictures of the model with, currently most of what I use is just a cell phone. In this case it's a
Y-
Pixel 2. But
Is that foam? Which, admittedly, if you try to show that, you might knock the model over. But is that foam that you mentioned? Is that from the Foldio foldable studio thing?
yes, it's from that Lightbox. So I still use something from the Lightbox. It's, so I have this gray one, then like a black one, and then
Yeah,
the
I think
white one.
Green Stuff Industries or World or whatever, the people who make the Tentacle Maker and such, they sell a very comparable product, which is like a little plastic box kind of with magnets on it, and
Mhm.
like an LED strip along the top, maybe along another side too, that then you just put a piece of like foam in there of like different colors to take photos. And yeah, like literally I got one of those as well, but the Foldio, probably right when we started the blog or very shortly after we started the blog, there was this Kickstarter from a company called Orange Monkey, which
Mhm.
maybe they were probably one of the first people to kind of make that sort of fold up plastic design. And they had a Kickstarter for it. So that's where I got one. They have since made like larger versions of it that probably are better and have better LEDs and such.
I mean, so now, like, it's also easier. Like, I have a bunch of relatively nice, like, daylight lamps and such. And so that they provide much better light than most of the other stuff. So, like, it's easier to situate stuff for taking pictures.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a link. Yeah, like I feel there's a newer version of the Foldio, which is slightly bigger, but then they have an even larger one. But this one I think would be a lot better than this original version of it, because it has at least
Yeah.
three strips of LEDs to help with the lighting.
Yeah, that looks better. They have a little. Yeah, so overall, like, some of the little light boxes like that do work pretty well. I feel the nicest thing would be is if you were really taking photos and stuff, if you had like a separate little like station on your work area that it was sort of just set up for photography, where you had like your own separate lights and stuff for it. But like for it where it is now, I just have to clear out all the stuff on my work desk and take pictures there, which is fine. But like in many regards, like the camera that we're using to do this stream now is like much nicer than like my cell phone camera. But I tend not to take pictures with that just because I don't know how to use real cameras, and it's and it's a little harder to get the images and stuff off of it. Mind you, it's not hard. So, but now that I'm actually using the camera for streams and stuff like this, um I'll probably start considering using that for like photography of like the actual miniatures and stuff, because we would get nicer pictures. You sent me something else, Eric. Is this?
Yeah, so relatively recently, I got like a bigger light box because the smaller one that I mentioned that I've had for a while is so small that if you're taking pictures of models like basically any larger than like a 28 millimeter one, they end up, you can see the edges of where the foam is, and like it's hard, you can't really crop it out. But I ended up getting one of these larger ones. It's basically the same sort of thing, but a fair bit nicer and substantially larger. Like all the edges of it are kind of this sort of reflective material to help like bounce the light around and whatnot.
That's like what you use to take pictures
That's
of,
what I
like.
use to take pictures of like the Gundam and such, and the lander and whatnot, because they're a little bit bigger and like with the sword sticking out and whatnot. It's nicer, and there are like a lot more LEDs in there that it does a pretty good job just with those LEDs. Whereas like the little older Foldio, I still put a battery in it for the little strip of LEDs, but it doesn't really do anything. I mainly just pull my daylight lamp forward and like angle it down.
Yeah.
But so I feel just having like a piece of foam like that and some good lights help a lot.
Yes.
But if you don't want something like that, I think there are a bunch of these sort of light boxes that are pretty nice. And particularly like this larger one, or even one of the smaller sizes of it, like it's now, I think companies have started to make more of them and are doing a better job of it. That just them by themselves, like they have enough LEDs and such in there that it does a relatively good job
Yeah.
without all that. And then I've just been using my Pixel 3 to take photos just on whatever the auto settings are, which admittedly the Pixel's camera app doesn't really have much control. Like you can't change much, but I mean it does a nice enough job.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I don't know, Eric. I think maybe we can end this stream now. I've largely finished painting. I want to take some better pictures of the guard model here, and
Yeah.
well, yeah, so thanks everybody for joining us for this kind of surprise stream, painting stream. It was nice to chat with all of you and get your ideas and thoughts on things. We'll certainly be here again tomorrow to do our like normal hobby chat. Don't actually know what we're gonna talk about this week, but we'll figure it out. And
Gundams.
maybe we will just
Talk about Gundams. Or I feel we can talk at least a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
And then we'll probably unbox something and laugh about stuff. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. Stay safe, stay home. Have fun with the hobby, whatever it is, whether it's 40k kits, gunpla, painting, art, whatever. So yeah, good luck everyone. Over and out. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yep, see you everybody.